All right, so the reason that ProQuest is so great in terms of the main resource when you're looking for dissertations is that it's the largest database of dissertations in the world. Their coverage goes back farther than any other database in the world, all the way back into the 1600s, I believe. Now, it doesn't mean that all dissertations from the 1600s that are in ProQuest are going to be available as PDF full text, but ProQuest does try to work backwards as far as they can with as many dissertations as they can to make them digitally available. So ProQuest is consistently going through and scanning dissertations from years that were when dissertations were not natively digital documents, to scan those and make them available as PDF full text within the database. So just to get us in here, rather than doing a subject search again and everything, and for the sake of time to show you an example, I'm going to go ahead and begin with an advanced search. Let's say that I'm looking for someone's dissertation in particular. So in this case, I'm going to change my field to the author of the dissertation. It's going to be last name, comma, first name. If you know the person's middle name, you can narrow it down even easier. So in this case, I'm going to go with Dr. Allen's dissertation. I'm going to hit search. All right. So it brings me the result for Dr. Allen's dissertation, price-centered homiletics of Edwin Clowney and Sidney Greidanus, in contrast with human author-centered hermeneutics of Walter Kaiser. If I click on the link, it's going to be similar to what we had over on the Joshua side. Puts the PDF of the dissertation here within the browser window, depending on what your plugin settings are. You notice over here, helpfully, if you are looking for a particular section of the dissertation, it's listed over here. So if I knew a particular chapter that I was looking for, or a particular heading or subheading in the dissertation, I could just click on that and it would drop me off right where it was. The abstract/details tab is going to be very similar to the detailed record page over in Joshua. The abstract is going to be a summary, kind of a quick summary of the dissertation. The subject headings over here, where it says subject, clerical studies, religious education, those are just going to be general subject headings. The ones here that say classification that have a number next to them, those are specific to ProQuest in terms of the way that ProQuest classifies it. In this case, there's no difference, but in some cases you will find dissertations where ProQuest has its own classifications that might be somewhat different than just the general subject ones. Something to keep in mind, though, about the identifiers and the keywords are that these are chosen by the author of the dissertation when submitting their dissertation to ProQuest. Basically, think of it in terms of like putting yourself in the mind of the author of the dissertation. If I wanted my dissertation to come up in the results when somebody searched for whatever, this is what I would say are the identifiers and the keywords. So in this case, philosophy, religion, theology, education, Edwin Clowney, of course, Sidney Greidanus, hermeneutics, homiletics, Walter Kaiser. Pretty standard in terms of what you would think the keywords would be for this. But do keep in mind that, again, those are selected by the author. So if you have an idea of what the author might have been thinking in terms of the dissertation, the way that they would have classified that in terms of keywords, you can use that to your advantage in your searching and trying to find dissertations on the basis of those keywords. Okay, if you scroll down here, you'll see gives all of the information about the dissertation. In this case, a useful feature too is who the advisor was for the dissertation. That's almost always going to be hyperlinked, assuming that person supervised multiple dissertations. So if you're looking for, oh, okay, I want to see all the dissertations that so-and-so supervised, you can click on that link and it would drop you off there. In this case, like, for instance, Dr. York, we have 20 dissertations in ProQuest, no, 27 rather, that were supervised by Dr. York. All right, so a couple of other features that are going to be useful within ProQuest dissertations and theses that are not available in Joshua, but something that are worth pointing out. You'll see that one tab here is listed as references. This is the computers at ProQuest's best effort at trying to pull every single citation out of the dissertation and listing them all in one place. Now, I say best effort because it's imperfect, because basically the computer is having to scan the dissertation and try to determine whether or not it was a citation, and then pulling it out of there. So this, whenever you see that, when you see the references here, do keep in mind that it's not necessarily going to be perfect, but it is at least useful enough in terms of its accuracy to give you a pretty good list of all the citations that were in the dissertation. Now, one of the reasons that that is so helpful is because you can actually browse the citations of the dissertation, and let's say you're going to be writing on a similar topic. You can browse through here and you can find how many times those particular sources were cited by other dissertations. So in this case, for example, right here, Walter Kaiser's book, The Promised Plan of God, Biblical Theology of the Old and New Testament, is cited by 48 other dissertations within ProQuest Dissertations and Theses. Now that might itself not be super useful, because if that's a relatively prominent book, it can show up in any number of dissertations on any number of topics, right? But if you did find one source, for instance, let's say it was very narrowly focused on whatever the topic was that you were interested in, and you saw that the citation number was really high, like let's say, it was cited by 50-something other dissertations, and it was one particular journal article on something that's very specific, then it might be worth your while to click on this over here and produce a list of all the dissertations that cited that, because it's a question of, how prominent is this particular source, right? Or how seminal is it to what I'm writing about? If 57 other dissertations are citing this source, and these other dissertations are on the same topic that I'm writing on, or have some respect toward it, or dealing with it in some capacity, and I overlook something like that that was so important that it was cited by all these other dissertations, that's not very good, right? I need to make sure that I'm keeping up with what the other sources are that other people are citing as well. So again, it might be a good idea to go through here and take a look and see, are there any particular sources that are very narrowly focused that are cited by a whole bunch of other dissertations that might also be dealing with the same topic that I am. So that's one useful feature, the references tab. The other is over here in cited by. So if you want to see how many times this dissertation has been cited, you can click on that link, and it will produce all of the dissertations that also cited the dissertation you were just previously taking a look at. So in this case, you'll see there are 11 other dissertations that cited Dr. Allen's dissertation. Okay, so both of those are very useful features to kind of follow the paper trail, as it were, right? Or the citation trail, if you want to look at it that way, where you're kind of going from one to the other. Okay, who's citing whom and why, right? You can kind of follow that by going through and using that feature. We'll also draw your attention to, up here it's not labeled, but very similar to the My EBSCOhost account that I mentioned in Joshua, you can do the same thing over on the ProQuest side. See sort of this silhouette here. When you click on that, the ProQuest side is referred to as My Research. And if you create an account in here, you can do the same sort of things that you were doing on the Joshua side. You can save the individual results. You can save the searches for the dissertations. That way you have a ready way of like seeing what new dissertations have come out on a particular topic, right? Similar to kind of what I described before, running that same search over and over again. So another very handy feature there as well that we encourage you to take advantage of. Then lastly, when it comes to the dissertations that are available as a digital PDF, again, same sort of thing. Never hurts to just go ahead and save a copy of it to your hard drive. That way you have it and you're not reliant upon having to log back in to be able to access that dissertation. You just have it there available to you on your own device already.